we'll move on. Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi attempting to put on a united front after that resolution. So we'll move forward now. Calling the squad members our sisters. But in that new interview, those progressive Democrats also renewed their rift with the speaker. What?
Our teams are in communication, our chiefs are...
But shouldn't it be a face-to-face?
She's the new member, not the speaker.
No, but
he has every right to sit down with her in any moment, any time, with any of us.
Yeah.
She is Speaker of the House. She can ask for a meeting to sit down with us for clarification. Acknowledge the fact that we are women of color. So when you do single us out, be aware of that and what you're doing, especially because some of us are getting death threats, because some of us are being singled out in many ways because of our backgrounds, because of our experiences and so forth.
Meanwhile, some moderate Democrats reportedly saying that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's chief of staff should resign over his recent criticism of certain Democrats. Here is Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar, who is...
Well, certainly, I mean, it's this group called the Justice Democrats. I think they're not Democrats, quite honestly. They're socialists, and they want to impose their vision to Texas. And we certainly know that in Texas, our vision is very different from what this social, what I call this Justice Democrats, which are really socialists. They're not really Democrats.
Capri, not to pick on you, but you're the Democrat on the couch today.
Go ahead.
Look, in recent polling also showed that when Democrats are identified as socialists, President Trump, if it were held today, wins re-election by as many as 6 points or more. This is problematic. If you're being defined, again, not just by 4 women who are outspoken, whatever, they don't agree with the speaker, but call themselves victims because they think that she's picking on them because of the color of their skin, and they're socialists, where does that take your party?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but let me just say this. It's no accident that we continue to hear President Trump and Republicans talk about socialism, talk about socialist, democratic socialism.
Well, because it works. And
exactly.
But it's also true.
For a small minority that I continue to argue,
they're the loudest.
because they are the loudest pennies in the jar. They're not necessarily the ones that are getting this. They're not the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And let me say one more thing. They made the argument here that that Speaker Pelosi should call them. No. You need to call Speaker Pelosi. Yes, you are the freshman member, and because of that, you need to make the effort to reach out to the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House is not there to reach out to you. That's just my personal opinion as a
How about you walk over and knock on the door of the office and have a conversation?
Exactly.
Because there might not be cameras there, Melissa. and then it didn't happen.
It didn't. Well, but you have your phone, and they like to tweet and take video of everything anyway.
Speaker told them you better not tweet.
They can make their own. They can make their own
work
video.
that out for her.
That is amazing to me. That first of all, they're clearly not communicating at all. But I also thought it was really interesting. You brought up AOC's chief of staff, and when he tweeted at Representative Sharice Davids, votes in support of a racist system, that's what it was, and then the caucus hit him back for singling out a woman of color. She's Native American. So that to me,
and LGBT again.
But this is so. If you can't criticize anyone who's a member of a protected group. So Jesse, you can never tell me that I'm incorrect or wrong or disagree with me about anything because I'm a woman. Is that fair?
And I'm her black friend.
No, it's not fair. Well, you know what? I would never, because you're right all of the time.
You're the only one that can.
You've never been wrong, so why would I ever criticize
he
you?
is right about that.
No, here's the deal with what they said. Listen, they have not been singled out by Nancy. They've singled them out themselves. These are freshmen. They burst onto the scene, impeach the MRFer, abolish ICE. Get rid of the border. The Jews are to blame for everything. And then when you criticize them, Republican or Democrat, on policy, ideology, or behavior, they play the gender card and they play the race card. And then the media protects them and gives them these bulletproof vests. You're not allowed to criticize them, and the media builds them up to be stronger than they actually are, because really they're the tip of the spear for the resistance. And it's been very effective that way, but it's a double-edged sword. Because if you embrace them, your numbers go down. And if you criticize them, they will destroy you on social media.
We can criticize you all day long,
and you
can't criticize any of us.
So, and of course we're joking.
Yes.
We never criticize you.
No,
that's right.
But you know, I see you over there fiercely taking notes. And I know you well enough, Capri, to know this about you. You want to hear from everybody. You want to hear. Your party's not listening to everybody right now. Because if you're not one of these women or one of those people who are actually part of the bigger squad, as they say they have, nobody's listening to each other. So how do we move forward on things like what Jesse and Emily and Melissa have talked about, the border crisis, so on and so forth? This is distraction for all of Washington right now.
This is distraction, period. And again, the American people are losing. And I think the best way to deal with it is ignore them.
You know what we're not talking about, too? The 2020
The
Democratic
2020
candidates.
Exactly.
My gosh, they can't get a breath because all the oxygen's gone.
I don't care how many interviews they do. Ignore them. Don't give them any oxygen. Don't let them vote. Don't give their bills any hearings if they had bills. I mean,
AOC is going to end up starving out your party the way that the president said she starved out her district in New York on the Amazon deal. Emily?
I think this was a failed opportunity on the left side to kind of have this rallying cry against everything, right? Again, there's still fissures, and it shows that the issues are deeper than that. And I think another interesting thing that this also illustrates is that Pelosi has obviously been in Washington, D.C. long enough to know when to cut a deal and when to stand her ground. And the squad, they are too idealistic and neophytic, you can argue, to know when to do either. And it's a different philosophy, and this is going to prove a problem with them and her for a long time.
That's so well put. Mnuchin, we know, secretary, has been talking with Nancy Pelosi in late day meetings about the debt limit. I mean, there are big issues that face us right now. Wow. Okay, we'll move on. No doubt we'll come back, though, at some point. The DNC is